What's up, you guys? I am Luther Bravo, and this is my garage, and we are talking about being trans and mental health. And so, as some of you may know, right now I'm recording this. Well, I'm uploading this November 2025, right? You might not be watching it in November 2025, but currently, right, this is the Trump regime is going after trans people hard, and they have been for the past 10 years, and they're really kicking it up a notch. And in the beginning of the year, they made it, they're going after trans people, and they don't want trans people to be able to change their gender marker on their passports. And there was an injunction to stop that through the local courts, and recently the Supreme Court just reversed that injunction. So now trans people can't update their passports to reflect their gender identity. And that's super dangerous, right? That's super dangerous because whether you like it or not, trans people exist, and you can't legislate people out of existence. Okay? It doesn't work like that, right? The thing about being trans is that so much of your mental health is dependent on the mental health of others. And one of the biggest things, though, is that as a trans person, you have to be comfortable taking risk, and you have to be comfortable learning how to make peace and de-escalating and all of these things, right? A lot of self-reflection, a lot of just true work that goes into transitioning, especially right now. And it makes it very apparent how much the general public lacks mental health, right? Just basic mental health, in the sense that if you're okay with what's happening to trans people, it's because you don't think it could happen to you, right? But it shows ignorance, I think, and it shows how scared I think people are, because I think you can tell how scared someone is by how much they have to look away, right? There are people that won't even acknowledge, that can't even fathom that the way that they are attacking trans people systematically could attack them as well. And let me give you some examples. If you have ever gotten your name changed, whether that's because you got married, that's because you got divorced, that's because your parents decided to change your name, which happens, or you were in the foster care and you got adopted at some point, um, whatever. Maybe you just didn't like your original name, and all of those documentations don't match. All of those pieces of documentation don't match. That can impact your right to vote. That might impact your right to update your passport with the right name. If they come for, right now they're coming for trans people's ability to update their gender marker. How do you know they're not going to come for their ability to update their name? Think about it. They don't stop, right? They just try and try and try and try little things. Little things. They try these little things to see if you would care. Because you don't think it would be you, because it's just them. It's just them over there. And as a trans person, you have to sit there and watch people not care, and watch people fail the experiment, fail the test, right? And you have to not let it impact you, right? Because you have to be prepared no matter what. And that, I think, is crazy. That, I think, is something that, right, is always, that's something I don't know what it's gonna mean for the future of my community. The new levels of distrust in each other, right? That I think that we're seeing play out in the trans community currently, in inner circles, but on broader terms, moving forward, like the people that transitioned during the time that Trump was taking everything away and America let them. What is that going to say? How are we going to feel? How is that going to be able to be processed in 10 years from now? Um, for a lot of people, I think it's going I think it is very traumatic what's happening right now for a lot of people. And I'm saying that as someone who is very lucky and very blessed to have access to hormones and to be able to have gotten a gender affirming surgery earlier this year. Um, you know, not everyone has that, and not everyone that can have that is even safe where they are engaging in these things that are completely life changing for them. Completely life changing. And it's, I don't know, man. Because it's one of those things where it just feels like such a slap in the face. Because when you're trans, they talk for you to be able to get a gender affirming surgery. Like I said, I got one earlier this year. You have to, right? You have to get at least one, right? If you go through insurance, you get a letter. You have to get a letter that says that, like, this surgery is very good for your brain. This very good. Brain work good now, brain work even better with surgery, plus surgery. And the more extensive the surgery is, right? Say it's multiple surgeries, say it's a very expensive surgery, whatever it is, whatever high risk the insurance company deems it is, then you need to have multiple letters from multiple therapists saying yes. Procedure very good. Procedure very good for brain knee procedure. Yes, please approve. And when that's humiliating within its own right, because it's just like, wow. But whatever, right? You go through that, and it's like right now you have people who, as far as they're concerned, they've never met a trans person, and they have such hatred and vitriol for trans people. Where's their mental health check? Where's their letter? And they're like, well, they're not trying to get surgery. Well, they're trying to do other things that maybe they shouldn't. They're clearly not in the right mind for, right? Trans people make up currently estimated 1% of the US population. 1%. We know that the 1% could do a lot of damage. But trans people aren't the reason that your property taxes are going up, that rent is super high, that gas prices are going up, that eggs aren't inexpensive, right? Eggs are very expensive. They're not cheap. Very expensive. Not inexpensive. And trans people aren't keeping all the eggs. And I don't know, man. It's one of those things where you really just have to stop and wonder, like, and the reality, right? Every trans person knows that, yes, the general public, the general American does not give a fuck because it's not them. Right now, the government's been shut down and we're going on 6 weeks. And that means that there are government employees that are missing, if not their second paycheck, their third paycheck. And that means that SNAP hasn't been paid out because the Trump administration is fighting tooth and nail not to pay out SNAP. And people only care because they're cutting air traffic by 10% at 40 of the major airlines. So people's flights are getting canceled and the lines at the TSA are long and it's such an inconvenience. And that's what they care about. There are kids not eating this weekend because Trump and his goons didn't want to fund SNAP. But your flight got delayed. There are trans people that are losing access to health care. But you don't care because you were born. So lucky. And like, it's like, oh, look at me. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. Because trans people are just getting healthcare. Are you saying that you're so healthy that you'll never need healthcare? The healthcare that trans people receive, hormone replacement, is because men end up needing extra testosterone and women end up needing extra estrogen. But not you. You'll never need that. Not now and not ever. Being trans right now, you have to be so mentally strong. You have to be resilient. You have to be. And it's one of those things where I am so proud to be trans and proud of our community and proud of the fight, but these fights shouldn't be this hard. We're fighting a battle, a war that we won, right? I'm fighting for my right to exist. I'm here, breathing, speaking, living, doing. I'm here. I exist. No matter what laws you write, you can't stop me from existing. And I think that's the thing that once you know in your mind truly unlocks the biggest sense of peace. So to all of my trans people out there, keep rocking on, Rockstar.